step on our relationship ladder is communication. Open communication, meaning we are frequently sharing things with our partner. We are discussing issues without defensiveness. We are not avoiding significant issues, right? So this is what open communication is. And we're going to roll through a few communication basics, starting with active listening. And you might already know what this is, but I'm going to refresh your memory if you don't know. So active listening is actively making eye contact with your partner, sitting with them and listening to their message, not only listening to their message, but attempting to understand what they're trying to tell you. And sometimes in therapy, it means repeating back their message verbatim, right? To make sure that you understood them correctly. And so active listening is like a bridge that connects you and your partner together. It is a relationship builder. And so it is super important. I want to open with that because I ask couples that I work with to practice active listening all the time. When you are listening to your partner's message and having to repeat it back, it is eliminating potential miscommunications, especially when emotions get involved, because we tend to insert emotions or our thoughts sometimes where there aren't any, right? And so this helps us avoid miscommunication. On that same train of thought, I want to talk about being specific in communication. So when we are specific with our partner, again, we are making it easy for them. We are setting up, this is exactly what I want or what I need from you, and we're not leaving room for questions or guesswork or mind reading. And so many of our conversations and statements are laced with vague sentences. For example, I might say something like, I want to try to be healthier. What do I mean by that? Am I saying that I want to eat healthier, that I want to work out, that I need better sleep hygiene? You don't know what I mean because I haven't been specific. So just a small example of how specificity, being specific in your communication, can help you and your partner better understand each other. In addition to active listening and specific communication, I want to talk about congruent communication, meaning your nonverbals and how they match your verbals. So 73 to 90% of what we say, what is communicated, is nonverbal, meaning our tone of voice, our facial expression, our posture and body language. So if your partner tells you, with slumped shoulders and a furrowed brow and a annoyed tone of voice, I'm fine, you can kind of gather that they're not fine, right? They're saying they're fine, but the visual doesn't match the verbal. And so this is an issue not only because it is passive aggressive, but also because when we aren't congruent with our partner, we're sending mixed messages. And mixed messages often translate as dishonesty. And so you are sending a signal to your partner that you don't want to communicate. You don't want to find solutions. Incongruent communication, mixed messages, puts up a wall between you and your partner that says, I don't want to find solutions. This is a barrier to communication. So the key to congruent communication is to make eye contact and make sure that your nonverbals and your tone, your expression, match what you're saying. So if you are, let's just say you don't want to talk, you're not ready, you and your partner are talking about a touchy subject, instead of being passive aggressive and saying, I'm fine, you could just say something like, I'm not fine, but I'm also just not ready to talk about it right now. And I think that honesty is going to translate a lot better to your partner than sending mixed messages. I also want to talk about taking ownership in communication. Taking ownership is what we call using I statements. Maybe you've heard of this technique. It is simple and very effective. Start sentences with I instead of you, and you will immediately prevent your partner from feeling blamed. Because when we lead with you, it has the effect of putting our partner on the defense. So I will give you an example, and I'm gonna try to pull together all of the techniques that we have talked about so far. So being specific, congruent communication, and taking ownership, starting with an I statement. Let's say your partner comes home late from work and you're upset. They've been coming home late, every day for a week because they're on a deadline. Okay? So your partner walks in the door and I'll tell you what not to do first. You might immediately let emotions drive and say something like, "This is so upsetting. You are so inconsiderate. You're always late. You've been late every week and you keep missing dinner." Okay? So nothing wrong with that. You expressed your emotions, but you led with you, and it's probably going to put your partner on the defense. So not as effective as leading with an I statement and being very specific about what you want and need from your partner. So you could say something like, "I recognize that you're on a deadline this week and that work is really hard. I feel upset when you miss dinner most of the week. So I would like for you to make it home one night a week by 6:30 so that we could eat together." So what did I do there? I took ownership of my emotions, and I used I said, "I feel this way." I didn't point my finger and blame and say, "You're inconsiderate and you're this and you're that, you're late." I just said what I needed, that I understand where you're coming from, but I would like for us to be together at least once per week. I gave a time, 6:30, once per week. Let's have dinner together. So I was specific and I used my I statement. I took ownership in that conversation. So we're going to continue with communication tips and tricks, techniques, tools, whatever you want to call them. But we're going to look at the emotional underpinnings of communication next.